Shannon Sharpe didn't just question the decision. He questioned the man behind it. How is Kevin Stefanski still employed? That blunt line cut to the noise on Nightcap as he and Akasinko roasted the Browns for turning Shedeur Sanders' career into a holding pattern, with Bailey Zappe emerging as a rumored frontrunner for the backup QB job, and no clear justification for Sanders' marginalization. Sharpe made it personal. This isn't just bad coaching, it's reckless leadership. And it's hurting more than just one player. It's hurting the entire team dynamic. That kind of honesty struck a chord. Fans pour into the comments with agreement and disbelief. Many said Stefanski has lost the locker room, while others accuse the organization of sabotaging their own potential just to protect bad decisions. Ocho's baby boy reference added levity, but beneath the laughs was a serious point. Nightcap gave voice to the growing sense that the Browns are spiraling, and Stefanski may be the one driving. Shannon Sharpe didn't hold back. The second Kevin Stefanski refused to name Shedeur Sanders the backup quarterback, not starter, just backup, Sharpe called it what was sabotage. No hesitation. No dancing around it. Just a straight-up indictment of what fans already knew deep down, but hadn't heard someone with Sharpe's platform say out loud. And the second he said it, it was game over. The conversation shifted. What had been frustration bubbling in Reddit threads and YouTube comment sections suddenly had a headline, a label, and two former NFL stars, putting it front and center on Nightcap. Shedeur isn't being developed. He's being shelved. And not because he's unprepared. Not because he's underperforming. But because, as Sharpe and Ocho pointed out, the Browns are only interested in using his name, using his media draw, using his father's legacy, using the buzz that came with drafting a Sanders, and giving nothing in return. No real opportunity. No reps. No growth. Just optics.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
That's the part that stings. Because this could have been different. Shedeur had fans excited. Not just Colorado fans or Deion fans. Football fans. Browns fans. The kind who've been burned by QB mishandling for decades and finally thought the team might have something real. Something to actually build on. But the moment Stefanski hesitated, the moment he even entertained the idea of going with Bailey Zappe over Shedeur for QB2, everything changed. The script flipped. It wasn't about readiness anymore. It wasn't about football. It was about politics. And Nightcap blew the lid off it. Sharpe and Ocho didn't just call it out. They dragged it into the spotlight, kicked the door open, and told fans what they already suspected. The Browns don't have a plan. They're not nurturing talent. They're manipulating narratives. And fans didn't just agree, they erupted. The comment section turned into a protest. People weren't just mad about the depth chart. They were furious about what it meant. They're using Shedeur for marketing purposes, one fan said. Another called it a chokehold on his career. And the harshest comment? How is this man still coaching? Referring, of course, to Kevin Stefanski, who's quickly becoming the focal point of all the criticism. And let's be real, it's justified. Stefanski's track record with quarterbacks has never inspired confidence. The man has cycled through more starters than playoff appearances. And now he's sitting on one of the most talked about QB prospects of the year. Only pretend like he doesn't exist while giving a career backup like Zappe serious consideration? That's not about strategy. That's about control. Because if Shedeur were to climb the depth chart, if he even got a taste of meaningful game reps and look good, Stefanski's system becomes a problem. The front office's priorities become questionable. An entire media strategy built around slow-cooking prospects falls apart. So instead of deal with that, they just bench him, not for performance reasons. Not because he's struggling, but because they don't want the heat that comes with his success. They want his name, not his impact. And that's the real betrayal. It's not just that Shedeur isn't starting. It's that the Browns won't even give him a clear path to develop. They're not preparing him. They're not protecting him. They're stalling him, keeping him in limbo, holding him hostage on a roster that doesn't value him as a football player, only as a headline. Sharpe said it best. This isn't about talent. It's about dysfunction. Because if you truly believed in your coaching, your structure, your system. You wouldn't be afraid to develop your rookie QB. You'd give him the chance to grow, to learn, to prove himself. But keeping him buried behind Zappe, that's not protecting the team. That's protecting egos. And Akasinko didn't even have to say much. The look on his face every time Zappe's name came up said everything. The disbelief, the frustration, the disappointment. It's one thing to lose a quarterback competition. It's another thing to be excluded from it without explanation. That's what fans can't forgive, because they've seen this story before. Promising talent wasted. Internal drama spun as process. Coach is more interested in being right than building something real. The Browns have done this to themselves, and now it's happening again, in public, under pressure, and with a quarterback that fans actually care about. And let's be clear, this isn't about whether Shedeur is ready to start tomorrow. No one's calling for that. This is about the basic respect of allowing him to compete, to earn his place, to be treated like a quarterback, not a billboard. You can't sell him as a future, and then leave him out of the game plan. That's the part that doesn't sit right. Not with Shannon, not with Ocho, not with fans. The Browns have made it impossible to root for this situation. Because even if Shedeur does eventually get a shot after sitting behind Gabriel and Zappe, it'll feel like a concession, not a plan. It'll feel like pressure got to them, not progress. And when that happens, you've already lost. Because the whole point of developing a quarterback is building trust. Not just with him, but with the team, with the fan base, with the future. And right now, Kevin Stefanski is doing the exact opposite. He's hoarding reps, avoiding accountability, and alienating the very people who believed in this pick in the first place. It's not about whether Shedeur starts. It's about whether the Browns are serious about anything they claim to be building. And right now, it doesn't look like they are. So yeah, Nightcap hit a nerve. A deep one. Because fans are tired of pretending this isn't exactly what it looks like. They're tired of trusting the process. They're tired of watching other teams develop their guys, while Cleveland spins its wheels with excuses and half measures. And now the clock's ticking. The longer this goes on, the worse it gets. For Shedeur, for the locker room, for Stefanski's reputation, and for any remaining trust a fan base has in this front office. They can still fix it. They can come out and say, he's our guy. He's competing. He's developing. We believe in him. They can back it up with reps, with preseason snaps, with some kind of visible plan. Or they can keep pretending Bailey Zappe is the answer, and watch this entire thing unravel in real time. Let us know how you're feeling about this one in the comments. Should Shedeur demand a trade? Is Kevin Stefanski in over his head? And are Sharpe and Ocho the only ones keeping it real in this whole saga? Hit that subscribe button if you're tired of the excuses. Because we'll be here every step of the way, breaking down every twist in this completely avoidable Browns quarterback circus. Stay tuned. The longer Shedeur Sanders stays in Cleveland under Kevin Stefanski, the less this feels like a development opportunity, and the more it feels like a slow-motion takedown of a rookie's career. And you could feel it on Nightcap. The frustration in Shannon Sharpe's voice, the disbelief from Chad Akasinko Johnson. It wasn't performative. It was personal. Because this isn't just a weird coaching decision. This is a situation that reeks of something deeper. Mismanagement, favoritism, and straight-up disrespect. And fans? Oh, they're past angry now. They've moved into pure exhaustion. Exhaustion from watching this team fumble young quarterbacks like it's tradition. Exhaustion from watching the same tired narratives. We believe in a process. He's still developing. We're taking it slow. Enough. Everyone knows what this is. It's sabotage. That word came up over and over in the comments under the episode. Not mistake. Not miscommunication. Sabotage. Because what else do you call it when a player with Shedeur's profile and potential gets brought into the building, hyped up in press releases, dangled in front of fans, and then strategically benched while the team elevates Bailey Zappe? Seriously, Bailey Zappe. A quarterback who has been shuffled around, cut, re-signed, and barely made a dent in New England is now somehow threatening Shedeur's spot on the Browns' depth chart. If you're a fan, how do you even rationalize that? You don't. And more importantly, you shouldn't have to. The fact that the Browns are even forcing fans to entertain this scenario is insulting. It's tone-deaf, and it confirms what Nightcap called out loud and clear. This isn't about football. It's about optics. It's about ego. It's about Kevin Stefanski holding on to control by any means necessary, even if it means leaving your most promising rookie QB out in the cold. And you can feel the tide turning. What started as frustration is now a full-blown movement. Fans want answers. They want clarity. They want accountability. And most of all, they want Shedeur free. Because if this team refuses to give him a chance, someone else will. That's not speculation. That's reality. There are teams who want to develop a quarterback like Shedeur. Teams that wouldn't waste a full offseason selling hope only to ghost him in training camp. But the Browns? They're doing what the Browns always do. They're choosing chaos. And now the pressure is on Stefanski, because he's running out of places to hide. The development excuse doesn't work anymore. Not when Shedeur isn't even being considered for backup. Not when a player like Zappe, who has no long-term future in this league, is getting talked about as a serious QB2. That's not development. That's damage control. And Sharpe knew it. That's why his reaction was so sharp, so pointed. Because this isn't a debate about skill sets. It's not about giving the rookie time. It's about why a coach would actively stall a player's progress while refusing to trade, release, or properly evaluate him. And let's talk about that part for a second. The refusal to move on. That's what really sealed it for fans. If Stefanski and the Browns really don't think Shedeur fits their plans, then why keep him? Why not let him go where he is part of the vision? You know why? Because keeping him keeps the buzz, keeps the media focused, keeps the illusion alive that they have something special in the pipeline, even if they have zero intention of ever using it. It's calculated, and it's gross. Because Shedeur deserves better than to be reduced to a storyline. He's not just Deion's son. He's not just a media draw. He's a quarterback who's shown poise, maturity, and potential. And instead of giving him the space to grow, the Browns have boxed him in with no clear path forward. That's not football. That's franchise malpractice. And Ocho said it without saying it. His silence during parts of that segment, that said more than words could. That was a guy who's been in the game long enough to know when something isn't right. He didn't have to scream. He didn't have to rant. He just looked disappointed. The same way fans are looking at this team right now. Because this could have been the reset, the fresh start, the chance of the Browns to do something different, something right. Draft a talented, high-profile quarterback. Build around him, support him, and eventually let him lead. But instead, we're back here again. Quarterback confusion, coach silence, fan outrage, same cycle, different name. And now, the Browns have backed themselves into a corner. Because the second Shedeur's not named QB2, the criticism goes nuclear. And if he is named QB2 only after all this noise, then it feels forced, like a PR response, not a football decision. Either way, trust is already broken. That's the cost of sabotaging a player before he even gets a shot. And the worst part? Everyone sees it. Players, analysts, commentators, other teams. This isn't some internal struggle hidden behind locker room doors. This is out in the open. On Nightcap, on social, everywhere. And the Browns still haven't said a word. They're letting Sharpe and Ocho tell the truth while they say nothing. And honestly, that silence speaks louder than anything else. So, where does it go from here? One of two ways. Either Stefanski digs in, keeps playing the Zappe over Shedeur game, and lets the pressure cook until it explodes mid-season, or someone in the building finally steps in and says, enough, give Shedeur a real shot, let him develop. Show fans you're actually serious about building for the future, not just pretending to. Because if you don't, then trade him. Don't string him along. Don't keep him locked in a system that clearly doesn't value him as a player. Let him go somewhere that does. Because at this point, it's not about protecting Shedeur. It's about protecting whatever's left of the Browns' credibility. Let's be honest, at this point, the Shedeur-Sanders situation has moved beyond controversy. It's officially a disaster. A slow-burning, completely preventable, franchise-shaking disaster. And the worst part? The Browns chose this. This didn't happen overnight. It didn't sneak up on anyone. The signs were there from the jump. You bring in a high-profile quarterback with the kind of media presence and built-in fan interest Shedeur has, and then immediately sideline him, refuse to even name him backup, leak out that Bailey Zappe is being considered ahead of him? That's not poor communication. That's a strategy. A bad one, but a strategy nonetheless. And here's where Nightcap once again pulled the curtain back and said what no one in Cleveland's front office has the guts to admit. They're not trying to develop Shedeur. They're trying to contain him, to keep his name relevant, but his role irrelevant, to benefit from the attention without ever giving him the opportunity to back it up. And honestly, fans have had it. They're not even asking for Shedeur to start. They're not even demanding Stefanski tear up the playbook and hand him the offense. They just want him to be in the conversation, to be in the mix, to be treated like a quarterback, not a branding tool. But Kevin Stefanski, for reasons still unexplained, won't even give him that. The coach won't trade him, won't release him, won't promote him, won't even talk about him. Instead, he floats Zappe's name and acts like the backlash is some kind of overreaction. As if people haven't watched this team sabotage quarterback after quarterback for years. You'd think by now they'd learn. You'd think after watching how fast the fan base turned on the Baker Mayfield debacle, or the Deshaun Watson fallout, or the DTR confusion, that maybe they'd handle their next young quarterback with a little more care, with a little more clarity, with a plan. But no, here we are again, wasting another young career in the name of process. Only this time, it's different, because Shedeur isn't just another rookie. He's not a no-name day 3 project who can be stashed quietly and forgotten about. He's Shedeur Sanders. And that means eyes. That means expectations. That means the media circus that Cleveland thought they could control until they couldn't, because now the noise is deafening. And Shannon Sharpe, oh, he heard it, and on Nightcap, he matched it. He didn't speculate. He didn't hedge. He said what everyone else was thinking, but didn't want to say first. This is a sabotage. That word landed like a punch to the throat, not because it was dramatic, but because it was accurate. Because when a franchise keeps a player on the roster, refuses to give him meaningful reps, and refuses to let him go, that's not coaching. That's control. And Sharpe laid it bare. The Browns are using Shedeur's name to sell hype, sell jerseys, sell the idea of promise. But behind closed doors, they're shutting every door in his face. And that's where fans started flooding the comments, not just with anger, but with something worse, disbelief. Disbelief that a team could be this tone deaf. Disbelief that Zappe, a career backup, a waiver wire quarterback, a guy who's bounced around with no staying power, is getting the nod while Shedeur can't even get an honest evaluation. Disbelief that this franchise, which has spent decades in QB purgatory, could finally have someone worth building around, and would rather burn all down than admit they're scared of what happens if he actually succeeds. And that's the part that really hits. The fear. Because if Shedeur goes out there and proves himself, then the questions start rolling in. Why wasn't he playing sooner? Why was Zappe in front of him? What were the coaches looking at? Who made the call? All of a sudden, it's not about Shedeur anymore. It's about accountability. It's about leadership. And that, Stefanski doesn't want. Because if there's one thing Kevin Stefanski has made clear over the years, it's that he does not like losing control of the narrative. He'll rotate quarterbacks. He'll dance around answers. He'll hide behind scheme and fit and competition. But the second he has to own a misstep, crickets. That's why this Shedeur situation feels so deliberate. It's not a missed opportunity. It's a conscious effort to keep the attention on the potential, not the product. It's easier to market Shedeur as one for the future than to let him take the field and possibly make everyone in the front office look ridiculous. So they stall. They float names like Zappe. They distract. And they hope the heat dies down. But it won't, because Sharpe and Ocho cracked the lid off, and now the fans won't let it go, because this one hits differently. This isn't just another wasted QB. This is a player who wants it, who is willing to be coached, who understands the pressure, who doesn't need to be handed anything, just treated like a part of the team, not a pawn in some slow-burn PR campaign. And fans are done playing along. They're asking real questions now. Loud questions. Why hasn't Shedeur been traded if he's not in the plan? Why hasn't he been named backup if he's clearly more promising than Zappe? Why is a head coach making decisions that contradict what every fan, analyst, and former player sees? And how many quarterbacks have to get caught in this mess before someone in the front office finally steps in and says, enough? That's what it's going to come down to. Someone above Stefanski is going to have to make a call, because this situation is officially unsustainable. You cannot keep a player like Shedeur Sanders locked in a holding pattern without consequences. You can't keep pretending this is about football when it clearly isn't. You can't keep running a franchise like a media startup, promoting hope, pushing hype, and refusing to deliver. At some point, you have to let the kid play, or let him go, because if the Browns think this is going to blow over, they've forgotten what kind of fan base they have. Cleveland fans are loyal, yes, but they're also informed. They watch this team fall apart in every way imaginable, and they can smell dysfunction from a mile away. They see what's happening with Shedeur, and they're not going to let it slide. And now, thanks to Shannon and Ocho, the whole football world sees it too. So let's close with this. The Browns still have a choice. They can keep burying Shedeur, keep pretending Zappe is the safe bet, keep pretending this is part of the process, or they can stop the bleeding, do the right thing, and give him the shot he earned. Because if they don't, this won't be remembered as just another coaching misstep. It'll be remembered as the moment the Browns sabotaged the future, on purpose. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are Sharpe and Ocho the only ones willing to call it what it is? Should Shedeur demand a trade? And how many more quarterbacks does Stefanski get to ruin before the Browns say, we've seen enough? Hit that subscribe button if you're tired of watching careers get wasted in real time. Because as long as this drama's unfolding, you already know we're not going anywhere. Stay locked in.